Namaste. After a long break, we are back here again to dive deep into Life Divine. In the journey of Life Divine, we are traveling with Dr. Sharad Joshi ji, who is an eminent scholar of Sri Aurobindo and chairman of Aurobindo Society, Baroda. His background of techno-scientific world gives scientific dimension to his talks on Life Divine and other work of Sri Aurobindo. A great physicist, Hans Peter Ruhr, an emeritus president of the Max Planck Institute of Munich, who succeeded Einstein and Werner Heisenberg, realized that there is no matter distinct from energy at the subtlest level. According to him, the vast omnipotent energy is the universal consciousness that is God, and we humans are but a tiny bit of that consciousness, the individual consciousness. He says, I quote, "Whenever I give a lecture on quantum physics, I feel as if I'm talking on Vedanta. I studied matter for the last 35 years, only to find out that it does not exist. I have been studying something that does not exist." Exactly what Adi Shankaracharya said long back from Upanishad. And today, our fourth chapter, Reality Omnipresent, starts with the quote from Taittiriya Upanishad, which says, "If one knows him as Brahman, the non-being, he becomes merely the non-existent. If one knows that Brahman is, then is he known as the real inexistent." Let's explore with Dr. Sharad Joshi ji what this ultimate reality is, or what is absolute Brahman. Dr. Joshi ji, namaste, please.
Namaste, namaskar to everybody. Welcome after a long break. We started this series on 1st of October, where we gave the general outline of the great work, The Life Divine. And in the next subsequent session, we discussed the first chapter, that is the human aspiration. Human aspiration for the time immemorial, even if it is vanished, it comes back again in different forms. And there is a perpetual aspiration of humanity to seek for a divine, to seek for perfection, to seek for immortality. But our normal human experience is just the contrary. And it is nature's way to put two contradictory things together. And the more the disparate elements, the more intense the spur to harmonize them. And she has achieved so many harmonies in life. She has combined the material nature with the prana and made a human body or an animal body. Now she is trying to, after this, she has harmonized the material element, the pranic element, and the mind, and she has developed a human being. Now perhaps she is trying to develop a being far above the human mind on the mold of the material body, the pranic energy, and the mental energy. So she is perhaps trying to develop the supermind or superman or the manifestation of the God. That was the gist of the first chapter. In the second chapter, we started with two opposite elements, the matter and the spirit. These are so disparate that apparently there is no accordance with them. There is no harmony between them. But if we consider the intervening series of consciousness, series of steps, starting from matter to spirit, say mind or prana and other things, then we can say that in this series, in this status, in these intervening steps, the nature speaks or the matter speaks to the spirit, and spirit is combining with the matter, and there they talk to each other. So once we accept one of them, then we deny the other one. So if we accept the matter, then we can deny the spirit, and then comes the materialism, or the Western civilization is based upon this principle. If we accept the God, or if we accept the spirit, only spirit, then we come to the conclusion that the matter is non-existent, and then we come to the illusionist theory, or the principle of ascetics. But nonetheless, both of them have created some kind of harmony, some kind of help to the advancing humanity. Materialism is also necessary because we have to be practical, and only the otherworldly impulse of ascetic is not enough. We have to have our own base on matter, and therefore we cannot neglect matter, and the materialism has done these immense service to the humanity. Similarly, the ascetics have done also a great service, even though they consider matter to be illusion. But even then, they have done an immense service to the humanity, because these are the experiences which are at the top of our experience, and therefore they are also real. We cannot say that they are unreal, and therefore that is also a necessity in the advancement of humanity, because that gives us the reality behind the universe, and that is also necessary. But the right spirit would be to combine both the spirit and matter, reconcile them, and have a base on earth, so that we can have a divine life on earth. So then we come to the fourth chapter, and the fourth chapter is dealing with the omnipresent reality. So I will try to present now. Can you see everybody? Can you see the screen?
No, we can see the screen. You need to share the document. I mean, show the document. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the document. Can you see the document?
No. Right now we are seeing your screen actually.
But screen is having this.
No, you take the cursor on the documents. Click on that, so
Okay.
you will be able to see the document. Your document is on desktop, sir?
Chapter, yeah, on the desktop.
So then you go to desktop and click on that. Let this as it is. You go to the desktop and click on the document. Maybe in a kind of footers जहाँ होता है ना सर, सबसे नीचे आप देखिए तो स्क्रीन के वर्ड फाइल आपको दिखाई देगी आपकी अपनी. So yeah, now you click on your double click.
Okay, now can you see?
No, not yet. You have to double click that. Go to the icon and then double click, most probably. Now we are able to see.
Now you can see.
Right.
Okay. So this is chapter 4, where Sri Aurobindo talks about the omnipresent reality, omnipresent being present everywhere. So now we are recapitulating the previous gist of 2 or 3 chapters. We say that we admit both the claim of the pure spirit and the universal matter. The absolute freedom of the first, that is, spirit is absolutely freedom, has a freedom, and the claim of the second to be the mold and condition of the manifestation. So material or the matter provides the base, and material for the manifestation. We have to seek for their true reconciliation, and not some mere compromise. So it is through the utmost unification that we shall best arrive at the strongest foundation for a reconciling practice in the inner life of the individual. I don't know why it is not moving. Okay. So there is a claim of the spirit to be the base, the absolute freedom of the spirit, and we accept that the matter can be the condition of our manifestation or the mold of our manifestation. Then we have to have a true reconciliation of the two disparate opposites, that is matter and spirit, and it is through the utmost possible unification that we shall best arrive at some strongest foundation for a reconciling practice in the inner life of the individual and the outer existence. So when we have the reconciliation between matter and spirit, then we will admit that matter can provide the mold of manifestation for the spirit, and then the divine life is possible. In the cosmic consciousness, matter and spirit become real to each other, and mind and life become intermediaries rather than agents of separation. In the intervening period, in the intervening worlds, or in the intervening steps between matter and spirit, because there is an descending involution of spirit into matter and ascending evolution from matter to spirit. So there are intervening stages, life and mind and supermind and Satchidananda. So all these steps, the 7 principles of manifestation. So in these principles, we can say that they unite, matter and spirit can unite together, and rather than becoming the agents of separation. In this, we perceive the possibility of a divine life for man in the world, which will at once justify science and the great ideal dream of the high religions. Up till now, as we have seen in the first chapter, the human being, humanity has always been aspiring for the perfection of life, for the immortality, for the divination of the Godhead. And these aspirations are justified if we say that there is a possibility of uniting the mind, uniting the spirit with matter, and matter can be the mold of the manifestation of the spirit. Similarly, science also now comes to the same point, that there is an energy, and this energy is behind the energy, because energy works out the works of the high intelligence. We see the order in the world, and that is the work of high intelligence, and that intelligence is nothing but the infinite consciousness. So behind the energy, there is a supreme intelligence, or we call infinite consciousness. That also science is come to same point, and that is why there is a reconciliation possible. What then of this silent spirit, inactive, pure, self-existing, self-enjoying, and abiding justification of the ascetics? The ascetics have always talked about the inactive, pure Brahman, pure, existing, self-enjoying. This is the ideal of the Nirguna Brahma, or this Nirguna Brahma is the Brahman, or the ultimate reality without any qualities. But here also, Sri Aurobindo says that silent and active Brahman are not different, opposite and irreconcilable. They are one Brahman in 2 aspects, positive and negative, and each is necessary to the other, because the silent Brahman, out of the silence comes the activity, out of the silent Brahman comes the manifestation, and Brahman supports the manifestation rather than is inactive. Although in its supreme status or non-being, he can be described to be silent, silent entity, but in its world supporting entity, or what you might call, and cosmic manifestation, He supports the manifestation, and therefore that is his active aspect. So there are two aspects of the Brahman. Both are complementary to each other, and they are silent and active Brahman, and they are not different, they are not opposite. They are each necessary for the manifestation, for the supreme effort of the manifestation. The apparent incompatibility of the two states is an error of our limited mind, which is unable to conceive of a comprehensive consciousness vast and strong enough to include both in a simultaneous embrace. So we cannot conceive of a supreme reality which can embrace simultaneously the activity of the manifestation and the supreme, which is sort of a silent, sort of a witness to his own creation. So both of these things we cannot imagine by our mind that they can be simultaneously active. The silence does not reject the world, it sustains it. But still there is an absolute withdrawal. There is the non-being. Shunya, as we say, or non-being, as we say, or as the Upanishad says, it is the asat, which is also present. Out of the non-being, says the ancient scripture, being appeared. Out of the asat, asadva idamagrasit, tato vai sad ajayata. Out of the non-being, the being appeared. There into the non-being, the nihil, it must really sink again. So asadva idamagrasit, tato vai sad ajayata. Katham asata sajjayata, Upanishad says. Asat, how can sat, the being, appear from the non-being? So that is asadva idamagrasit, tato vai sad ajayata. Asat and sat, they are not both opposite to each other. They are not exclusive entities, but they are the same being out of which the manifestation comes. We find to be a way of or method of total exclusion. We find it to be a way or method of total exclusion to overpass all that we can know and consciously are. And when we say that out of non-being, being appeared, we perceive that we are speaking in terms of time, that which is present beyond time. So non-being can be described to be a silent witnessing quantity, witnessing activity beyond manifestation, beyond time. And when the being appears, that means we are talking in terms of the manifestation in time. Sat and Asat, if they are both to be affirmed, must be conceived as if they obtain simultaneously. Sat and Asat both are simultaneously present. Both, since we must speak in terms of time, are eternal. Sat and Asat both are eternal. One is manifesting itself in eternal time. Another is beyond time in a supreme consciousness. Pure being is an affirmation by the unknowable of itself as the free basis of all cosmic existence. Pure being is the affirmation by the unknowable of itself as the free base of all cosmic existence. So pure being is the base of cosmic existence. Cosmic existence arises out of this pure being. We give to the name of non-being to a contrary affirmation of its freedom from all cosmic existence. So when we say non-being, we mean that there is an entity, there is a supreme reality which is free from all affirmations, all cosmic existence. That means there is, in the Vedic or Vedantic terminology, there is what is known as neti and iti. Neti means na iti. Brahman is not this, Brahman is not this. It is actually negative apparently, but it means there is a great positive part behind it. Na iti means he is above this. He is not only this, but he is above this. He is neti means na iti. It is not he is not limited to this. He is beyond this. That is what we mean. So neti is an affirmation rather than a negation. And there can be a supreme negation and supreme affirmation. Both are simultaneously present. So we give the name of non-being to a contrary affirmation of its freedom from all cosmic existence. By these simultaneous negation and affirmation, the simultaneous awareness of conscious self-being as a reality and the unknowable beyond as the same reality becomes realizable to the awakened human soul. So, Neti iti means he is the divine being in sun, in moon, in all other manifestations. So, the divine being beyond, behind the manifestation is also that. That is the manifestation aspect of it. But he is beyond manifestation. And when we say he is beyond manifestation, what it means is that what we mean really is that he is capable of manifesting this, but he is above the manifestation. He can use the manifestation as he wants. He is free from his own manifestation. We perceive that the limitations we impose on the Brahman arise from a narrowness of experience in the individual mind, which concentrates itself on one aspect of the unknowable and proceeds forthwith to deny or disparage the rest. So there are 1,000 aspects of the reality, and these 1,000 aspects we must see them in a one view, in a comprehensive view. Then only we can understand this. Seeking for our self-perfection founded on the largest and most comprehensive harmony, we recognize that as the perfect man would combine in himself the silence and the activity, so also would the completely conscious soul reach back to the absolute freedom of the non-being without losing its hold on existence as and the world. Sri Aurobindo here gives the example that it is not necessary that we present ourselves in an active mode only. We can be silent, we can be withdrawing from our activity. That does not mean that the activity is not possible to us. Activity is always possible to us, but when we want to exhibit our activity, then we proceed to have the activity. Otherwise, we can have the silence. So a perfect man can always exhibit in himself the silence or the withdrawal from the activity, as well as the immense activity. As a matter of fact, the more perfect the silence, more perfect the witness attitude, the more perfect can be the, or manifold can be the activity. So Aurobindo gives the example of Buddha, that Buddha having said he is the supreme being, or he is the highest being, or very high being who can combine in himself even though he was silent, he sustained all the activities of his being. The unknowable is something to us supreme, wonderful and ineffable, which continually formulates itself to our consciousness and continually escapes from the formulation it has made. So the unknowable is always this. This is the neti aspect of it. Neti aspect means that he is free from his own formulation. He is free from his own manifestation. He cannot be bound down to his own creation. He is free, even though he can create, he can manifest himself, but he is free from his own manifestation. He cannot he cannot be bound by his own rules or his own manifestation. An omnipresent reality is the Brahman, not an omnipresent cause of persistent illusions. The deepest instinct of humanity seeks always and seeks only wisdom, wisely. Wisdom is the last word of the universal manifestation, not an eternal mockery, an illusion, not the disappointed recoil of the soul from its great adventure. The soul has descended here in a great adventure to establish divinity in a material base, and therefore the supreme soul or the supreme adventure is to have a conquest on the material aspect of the world in its own manifestation. He can manifest himself in the matter as well as not bound by the reality of the matter. That is the great adventure for which the soul has descended into this universe. We cannot suppose the soul entity is compelled by something outside or other than itself. The Swagat Bheda and outside Bheda. That means the sole reality or the supreme reality or the omnipresent reality, we cannot suppose that it is bound or it is limited by something, some agency from outside, like Maya. We cannot suppose that the sole entity is compelled by something outside or other than itself, since no such things exist. Brahman must be the material of the world as well as its base and continent. So it is an efficient cause as well as the material cause of the world. So Brahman must be the material of the world as well as its base and its continent. It is not that somebody from outside Brahman compels him to become this or become that. Since nothing exists except the Brahman, and so there is nothing which can compel Brahman. In the Mayavadic illusionist Mayavadic Vedanta, it is supposed that there is an entity called Maya, and this Maya is and is not, and therefore it is a kind of a dichotomy. It is a kind of an illusion which Brahman has to undergo. But that is why we say that it is anirvachaniyam. You cannot explain these things. Phenomenon is not phantasm. Phenomenon is the substantial true form of a truth. So phenomena brings the reality into a substance, into a material substance. And so it is a manifestation of the truth, not a phantasm. So that is, non-being and the universe are not negations, not that annual reality. Non-being and the universe are not negations, that annual reality. Non-being is a silent Brahman who is witness, who is beyond all manifestation, who is beyond all our definition of the reality, and the universe from which is manifested out of the non-reality. Both are they are not they are not antagonists. They do not annul reality. The highest experience of that reality shows it to be not only a conscious existence, but a supreme intelligence. This is here we have to understand that the highest experience of this reality shows it to be not only conscious existence, but a supreme intelligence and force and a self-existent bliss. So it is Satchidananda, existence, consciousness, supreme intelligence means consciousness, force, and the self-existent bliss. Actually, when we say Satchidananda, Sat Chit Ananda, Sat is existence, Chit is consciousness, but it is a consciousness force, Chit Shakti, and Chit Shakti and Ananda. So there are really four elements of Satchidananda. Sat means existence, Chit means infinite consciousness, Shakti means force. That force apparently in the world seems to be the separate, disparate elements, but force works under the consciousness, and so the supreme consciousness gives the force an impetus to manifest this universe. And because there is a order in the universe, everything is according to this order, and therefore it is the work of intelligence, but actually it is the work of supreme consciousness. And the supreme consciousness impels force or inconscient to manifest matter and have the evolution of consciousness out of matter and mind and so on. So it is the work of supreme intelligence, force, and the self-existent bliss. And beyond the universe, it is still some other unknowable existence, some utter and ineffable bliss. So here Sri Aurobindo says that when we say existence, supreme intelligence or infinite consciousness and force and bliss, that means we are talking about Satchidananda. But he will say in the next chapter, 5th chapter, that these formulation of Satchidananda or to our consciousness is also some kind of a positive manifestation of the Brahman. But it is a formulation which is formed by the mind, and therefore Brahman cannot be bound down to any mental formulation. And therefore we say that there is a supreme being beyond Satchidananda. It is still, and beyond the universe, it is still some other unknowable existence, some utter and ineffable bliss. So Brahman is beyond even Satchidananda, because Satchidananda is our highest conception of the supreme reality. But that conception also is a human conception, and Brahman is beyond human conception, beyond human kind of a definition, and therefore he is not bound by human conception, and therefore he can be said to be an unknowable existence, some utter and ineffable bliss. While we still labor under the stress of dualities, these perceptions must no doubt constantly support itself on an act of faith, but a faith which the highest reason, the widest and the most patient reflection do not deny, but rather affirm. So we are laboring to have some kind of an understanding of under the stress of duality, because in our mind is dual, our prana is dual. This preparation must no doubt constantly support itself on an act of faith. We have to have faith that what we are thinking, what we are formulating is true. And that faith, by a faith which is the highest reason, the widest and most patient reflection do not deny. So the reason does not deny it, the pure reflection does not deny it, but supports it and rather affirms. And so this formulation of the supreme reality, that which is beyond all manifestation, the supreme reality is the supreme ineffable non-being. Out of him, being appears, and that supports the universe. So he is not bound by his own formulations, and that is expressed in terms of niti neti. It is iti iti also, that Brahman is behind all manifestations. Brahman is supporting all manifestation. He is not extra cosmic as supra cosmic. He is supra cosmic, not extra cosmic. He is not staying outside the universe. He is immanent in the universe, and therefore it supports the universe, and therefore it is also a supreme reality supporting the universe and even beyond it. Now we come to the chapter 5. The title of this chapter is Destiny of the Individual. Now here Sharad says that individual exists. According to this illusionist Vedanta, the individual is a kind of an illusion. When we say that Tattvamasi, what we mean by Tattvamasi is that in us, the supreme Tat, the pure Brahman resides. But practically what we say is, in the Vedantic Prakriya or Vedantic manifestation, is that there is one sun, and this sun gives its images in different vessels of water. So this sun appears to be multiplied. So in our mold of personality, there is a reflection of this supreme non-dual personality, and therefore the manifestation seems to be many. So in that philosophy, the individual does not exist. The individual being does not exist. It is only a kind of an image, false image, or reflection only of the supreme reality. It is not an individual. And so if there is no individual, there is no question of destiny. Sharad says that this is not true. It is not a reflection that is residing in us. There are three formulations of the supreme. One is beyond universe, that is the Paratpara or the transcendent reality. There is a universal reality, and this universal reality expresses itself in each individual. And the supreme reality, the Paratpara, the transcendent reality, also manifests itself in the individual. So individual has a real sense. It is a real spiritual entity. It is not merely a reflection of the one. And this means that there is a simultaneous appearance of unity and multiplicity. Because the Brahman at the highest level also expresses itself into unity and multiplicity. And this multiplicity here in this world appears as at the center of each individual. And therefore, individual also is real, is not a fictitious quantity, fictitious entity. And therefore, if individual exists, then what is the destiny of the individual? On what course there is a development of the individual? And that destiny is to realize God or the Brahman, to unite itself with the universe and to unite itself in the supracosmic reality. That is the destiny of the individual. That is the purport of this chapter 5. The reality is one and not a sum or concourse. But this unity is in its nature ineffable. The unity resides at the highest level in Satchidananda. At the level of supermind, there is a unity, there is a simultaneous unity and multiplicity of the Brahman. And that multiplicity appears to be here as individual. Each individual has its own multiple unity. When we seek to envisage by the mind, we are compelled to proceed through an infinite series of conceptions and experiences. And yet, in the end, we are obliged to negate our largest conceptions, our most comprehensive experience, in order to affirm that the reality exceeds all affirmations. As we said earlier, that Satchidananda, the formulation of Satchidananda, actually, all religions accept that the Hindus or the India has given the supreme present to all the religions and to humanity in the form that the reality it has formulated in terms of Satchidananda. The Satchidananda is the ultimate reality, the supreme reality, is the highest experience that the India has given to all the religions and all the world. That is accepted by now. But that conception of Satchidananda from the point of view of unknowable or from the point of view of ineffable is really a kind of a conception by the mind. And therefore we say that the supreme reality exceeds all our definitions. So supreme Satchidananda is also a conception or a definition by our human mind, by our human vision. And so we can say that the Brahman is not bound or exceeds all our definitions and conceptions. So that is what here is said, that our most comprehensive experience in order to affirm that the reality exceeds all definitions. So strongly was this truth perceived in the ancient time that the Vedantic seers, even after they had arrived at the crowning idea, the convincing experience of Satchidananda as the highest positive experience of reality, created in their speculation or went on in their perception to an asat. And that is why Upanishad says, Asadvai damagrasi tato vai sadajayata. Asat was existing first, non-being was first, and then Sat, the existence, came into being. Then the Upanishad asks, Katham asata sajjayadam? How can Asat appear out of Sat? So Sat and Asat, they are not opposite to each other, but they are a different kind of formulation to state that Sat is our positive conception of the reality. Asat is the by Asat we mean that the supreme reality is not bound by our highest conception of Sat. They beheld Sat and Asat not as opposite, destructive of each other, but as the last antinomy through which we look up to the unknowable. In our positive consciousness, even unity has to make an account of with multiplicity. So unity and multiplicity are simultaneously present. They are present as reality in the level of supermind. For many are also Brahman. If in the many we pursue insistently the one, it is to return with the benediction and the revelation of the one confirming itself in the many. So here at the lower hemisphere, see, the existence can be defined, existence can be divided into two hemispheres. The upper hemisphere is consisting of Satchidananda and supermind. The lower existence, the lower hemisphere is consisting of the matter, the prana, and the mind. Now, in the lower hemisphere, we only perceive many. We do not have the idea of unity. Although unity is always present in nature, We do not take notice of it. We only affirm ourselves or insist upon the multiplicity. But this multiplicity in the higher hemisphere becomes unity. And their unity and multiplicity are simultaneous to each other. They are not antagonist. They are not opposite to each other. They are simultaneously present in one experience. We will guard ourselves against the transient definitions of a partial logic, the excessive importance that the mind, whether materialized or spiritualized, attaches to particular point of view at which it arrives in its most powerful expansions and transactions, and avoid the two negations. Sri Aurobindo talks about the partial logic or the human logic and the divine logic. Partial logic is a human logic based upon reasoning, or the juxtapositions of the two principles. Whereas the infinite logic of the infinite, logic of the finite and the logic of the infinite, these two words Sri Aurobindo has used. Logic of the finite is our human logic, the logic of the mind, which puts things in a juxtaposition to each other. There cannot be reconciliation among them. But the logic of the infinite is also a logic. It is not some kind of non-existent order. There is an order, but that order eludes the human mind, and therefore it is supralogic. It is beyond the logic of the finite. But there are relations, even in the divine manifestation, even in the divine hemisphere. There are relations, and there are relations with each other. One depend upon the other, and therefore there is a logic behind them. But that logic is not human logic. It is a logic of the infinite. So partial logic is a logic of the finite, of the logic of the mind. So in our mind, in a partial logic, the excessive importance that the mind, whether materialized or spiritualized, attaches to a particular point of view at which it arrives in its more powerful expansion and transactions, and avoid the two negations. Brahman is in the world to represent itself in the values of life. Brahman manifests in life. Actually, in Life Divine, or even in Savitri, Sri Aurobindo has said that what is life in the lower hemisphere is light in the higher hemisphere. So in the field of ignorance, it is life which is expressing itself, and this life is also a manifestation of the Brahman. But when you transcend this lower hemisphere and go into the higher hemisphere, this life itself becomes the light. So what is light above is life below. So Brahman in the world to represent itself in the values of life. Life exists in Brahman in order to discover Brahman in itself. Therefore, man's importance in the world is that he gives to it that development of consciousness in which a transfiguration by a perfect self-discovery becomes possible. So the value of life, the value of the importance that man's importance in the world is to give. Hello. After some time. He starts from the animal vitality and activities, but a divine existence is its objective. So we start from human being, but we are progressing towards a divinity. He starts from the animal vitality and activities, but a divine existence is objective. However high we may climb, even though it be to the being itself, we climb ill if we forget our base. It is from the matter of our base, it is from the body that we are rising ourselves into the, we are aspiring ourselves into the higher divinity. But that divinity, we must bring it down on the earth, on the material level. And so we cannot, we climb ill if we forget our base. So we should not forget our base, and that is the real sense of the Sharira Madhyam Khalu Dharma Sadhanam. Sharira Madhyam Khalu Dharma Sadhanam means that ultimately in body only we can practice religion. That is one thing. In body only we can have the higher manifestations of the ascending series of consciousness. That is the second aspect of the phrase that Sharira Madhyam Kalu Dharma Sadhanam. But the real aspect or real meaning of Sharira Madhyam Kalu Dharma Sadhanam means that after rising to the higher consciousness, we must bring it down to the lower level. In the body itself, we must express this. That is the Sharira Madhyam Kalu Dharma Sadhanam. Sharir, the body, the material level, is the base of all manifestations. And so we should not forget our material base. Not to abandon the lower to itself, but to transfigure it in the light of the higher to which we have attained is true divinity of nature. That means we must bring down all that we have achieved in the material base, in the body itself. Brahman is integral and unifies many states of consciousness at a time. We also, manifesting the nature of Brahman, should become integral and all-embracing. Another exaggeration of the ascetic impulse, which the ideal of the integral manifestation corrects, is the idea of God not so much as supracosmic, as extra-cosmic. Brahman is not extra-cosmic. God is not extra-cosmic. He is supracosmic. That means he is immanent in the universe, but he also transcends himself. So he is transcendent as well as universal. That is the meaning of supracosmic. Not extra-cosmic means he does not reside only in some heaven, and from there he governs his subjects or his manifestation. And the consequent belittling of both the individual and the universe. In the integral view of the world transcendent embraces the universe. The Brahman in its transcendent aspect embraces the universe. He manifests himself in the universe and expresses himself as an individual. He is one with it and does not exclude it. Even as the universe embraces the individual is one with him and does not exclude him. This is always the true relation, veiled by our ignorance or wrong consciousness of things. So there are three statuses of Brahman. One is this superconscient or transcendent. The transcendent is the being or non-being or whatever you formulate it, Sat, Asat, etc., etc. But he supports the universe. He is also manifest in the universe. That is his second status of existence. And he also inverts himself in the individual. Just as the entire universe can be inverted into a being, into a point. Similarly, the entire transcendent inverts itself as a soul, as an individual entity. This always is the true relation, veiled from us by our ignorance or wrong consciousness of things. The individual is still necessary to the action of the transcendent in the universe. And that action in him does not cease to be possible by his illumination. Here, Sri Aurobindo says that once we have achieved the transcendent, that illumination is not the end of it. The transcendent must descend through universal into the individual, so that the individual illumination has some value in the world. Individual salvation can have no real sense if existence in the cosmos is itself an illusion, which is how the monist views of life. If the existence of individual is an illusion, then there is no point of having the salvation. Therefore, in such a view, we arrive at a paradoxical escape of an illusory, non-existent soul from the illusory point of view, from an illusory, non-existent bondage. Na nirodho nachotpattihi. There is no bondage. In an illusory, non-existent world, we are trying to have the moksha, the release from the non-existent world, illusory non-existent world, as a supreme goal, which is a non-existent soul has to pursue. So this is a paradox. And it is said in the Vedanta that only by the by soil. It is inexplicable or not. This is the escape by confusion out of the confusion. It is said that if you want to take out a something, हमारे शरीर में कुछ चुभ गया है, तो वो चुभ को कांटा निकालने के लिए हमें कांटा ही चाहिए. कांटे के मदद से ही हम वो कांटा निकाल सकते हैं. So it is the explicable or not. This is the escape by confusion out of the confusion. The transcendent, the supracosmic, is absolute and free itself beyond the time and space and beyond the conceptual opposites of finite and infinite. So supracosmic, this is not extracosmic. This supracosmic means he is transcendent as well as immanent. Immanent in the universe, as in the individual also. But in cosmos, it uses its liberty of self-formulation. Self-formation, its Maya, to make a scheme of itself in the complementary terms of unity and multiplicity. So this is real meaning of Maya. Maya means to measure, Ma to measure. That means he is measuring out individuals out of an ocean of infinite consciousness. So individuals are formulated by a sort of a divine Maya. Sharad has written this in the Life Divine. It is a divine Maya who formulates the Parabrahman or the transcendent into the terms of the individual. He presents the individual, the supra-cosmic, or the divine Maya represents the transcendent unity in the multiplicity of the individual beings. To make a scheme of itself in the complementary terms of unity and multiplicity. And these multiple unity, it establishes in the three conditions of the subconscious, the conscient, and the superconscient. We have three status of our existence. Subconscient, that is below awareness, the conscient, that we are awareness at our level, and the superconscient, the consciousness or beyond our understanding, our normal consciousness. In the conscient, the ego becomes a superficial point at which the awareness of unity, necessarily limited and superficial, can emerge. The ego is present at the conscient level. At the subconscient level, the ego is not formulated. In the animals, the ego is not yet formulated. In the superconscient, we have to transcend the ego. But when the ego transcends the personal consciousness, it begins to include and be overpowered by that which is to us the superconscious. It becomes aware of the cosmic unity and enters into the transcendent self, which here cosmos expresses by multiple oneness. The liberation of the individual soul is therefore the keynote of the definite divine action. It is the point of light at which the intended complete self-manifestation in the many begins to emerge. So one man, when he is released, when he becomes free, there is a tendency of multiplication of the freedom of all the souls. But the liberated soul extends its perception of unity horizontally as well as vertically. Therefore, whenever even a single soul is liberated, there is a tendency to an extension and even an outburst of the same divine self-consciousness in other individual souls of our terrestrial human unity, and who knows, perhaps even beyond. Just as an animal body can reproduce itself in the multiplicity, just as human being can multiply himself in its progeny, in the multiplicity of the individual being. Similarly, this is a principle arising out of the divine multiplicity. That is, if one being becomes free, there is a tendency in the universe to free all other beings also. He can multiply himself, this freedom, in multiple individual beings. Brahman preserves always its two terms of liberty within and formulation without, of expression and freedom from the expression. We also, being that, can attain to the same divine self-possession. By attaining to the unborn, beyond, and becoming, we are liberated from this lower birth and death. By accepting the becoming freely, as the divine, we include mortality. We invade mortality with the immortal beatitude and become luminous centers of its conscious self. So there are two terms, being and becoming. Being is a pure being. Being is within itself, but he becomes here in the manifestation. In the universe, a being descends into the into the material level and becomes here. Here he becomes the divine. So there is a being with a status of divine value or divine transcendent. That divine transcendence is descending here into the universe, becoming the individual, and becomes here again and attains its divine divinity. And therefore, that is a being, and here it is a becoming. So becoming freely as a divine, we invade mortality with the immortal beatitude and become luminous centers of the conscious self. So here there is a summary of the chapter 4 and 5. If you have any questions, I welcome the questions.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I request anyone, if you have question, please ask. Okay,
Questions
so
or
what I,
clarification, whatever.
yeah, so what, before it comes from outside, I have some questions. And
Yeah.
it's so amazing to see that, Sri Aurobindo has written the book Life Divine.
Yeah.
And particularly this chapter is kind of formula given to understand, what is reality. It amazes me. My question is, what is silent self? Where he continuously talked about that if you want to understand, there is a silence. You gave example of Buddha also.
Right.
So I want to understand, let's say, for example, if I want to practice, how you can remain silent and remain in this world.
The thing is that we have to have a double consciousness in us. Once we are not expressing ourselves into activity, we can withdraw back into our central self. And that central self is a self of silence. That can only become possible only when our mind is becoming silent. Because it is only in the silent mind that this silence can be effective, can be permanent, can be abiding. So it is only when our mind becomes silent, then we can perceive this peace, this niravata, this peace behind our consciousness, which is not active. But when we want to come back to the activity, we can express this silence itself. Out of silence, innumerable activities can be formulated. You see, Brahman is silent, static, and that is why it can manifest itself in the infinite multiplicity here. Because he is so silent, so static, so ingathered, that when he comes out to the manifestation, he can multiply himself infinitely. Similarly, a human being also, when he withdraws from the activity, if he can really attain to that level of silence, silencing the mind, silencing the divine peace within himself, then he can manifest himself in the activity also, and at the same time, he can have his silent self behind it. So this is possible in the yogic sense, that when we withdraw from activity and we have a real center of peace in ourselves, then we can do that. So it is only a question of silencing the mind, which is not that easy, yogically.
Yeah, I think, though I had a question, but I think I got your answer. I had a question like, how do we see contradiction? Because we always see life around us in contradiction, like good, bad, negative, positive, life and death. So I was just wondering how we start seeing in absolute, in complete form.
You see, life is always in duality.
Yeah.
At our level, at human level, life expresses itself in dual forms, and they appear to be contradictory to each other. But at the higher level, when we go beyond this, we can perceive that these two dichotomy, these two dualities are expressing itself in complementary terms, the same reality beyond these dichotomy, this duality. But that requires a silence, that requires a kind of another perception beyond this duality. there is a chapter here, duality, I think next or sixth chapter.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir, for being with us. And it's amazing that this chapter to understand it takes time, because
Yes.
particularly you are talking about absolute, and every time we get into that duality, whenever he says there is a silence, and we are as a human being, normal human being, there is never silence in our mind. Particularly in academics, there is never silence. But you help us, by giving some certain example in between also.
Yeah, this is a yogic express. This is a yogic process.
Right.
Unless we have silence established in our mind.
Right. So I hope if anybody has question, otherwise we wind up the session. And in this,
it is a question of yogic practice.
Yeah. So we are winding up. We discussed chapter 4, reality omnipresent, in which Sir discussed about world and non-being are affirmation of omnipresent reality. Settlement between spirit and matter is needed. Negation of non-being, nihil, is really something beyond positive mental conception. And chapter 5, he discussed on liberation of the individual is a keynote of the definitive divine action. Omnipresent reality is the truth of the life, and it must put aside antinomy between self and the world. We will again meet on next Tuesday, the same time. I wish all the best for all of you, and please participate whenever it is needed. Ask questions so that we can still dive deep into the study of life divine. Thank you so much, sir, on behalf of our